Hello everyone, welcome to Friday's Zoom meeting, the once a month fun we have about COVID. I am pre-recording this one because with the holiday being here and everybody being kind of tired, I figured it makes it a little easier for everybody. So starting out today, we're going to go over some of the new payroll information. We have decided to upgrade our payroll system. With that being said, we have allowed for a base pay and then all other payroll options to be laid out. So for every service you offer, being ILS, homemaking, PCA, whatever it might be, each one will actually show you a different rate. So you'll always have a base rate, but from there, each job will have its own rate of pay. The benefit to this is it will show you what your base rate is versus what the actual rate for the service is, and what the differentiation is between the jobs. It gives you some opportunities too to also be able to watch kind of where you're working, what you're working with, and who you're working with. And each job has its own breakdown then. If you have questions on that, you can always reach out to HR, to Lori or Misty, and one of them can explain some more. Really, it's not going to change anything for you guys. It's just going to look slightly different on your actual pay stub. But the benefit is for our side of it is we can document exactly where you've been working and there's no question about it. And your time cards are easier to match up with it. We've also made a few changes to all of the training stuff. So making sure you guys are doing training and turning in your tests. These trainings are required. They're part of the hours that COVID has enforced between MDH and DHS. COVID has kind of, again, made a nail in our coffin and we have to do more and the requirements are here. So why we have to do it, let's do it. Making sure you guys take some responsibility on these trainings. I really don't want to have the office staff chasing anybody. I know they're not fun. Usually I try to get them done in an hour. And a lot of times the questions are only about 5 long just to make sure they've randomly gotten touched on. So make sure you guys are keeping up with that and taking care of yourself. Making sure you also remember to comply with all the rules that are coming through. As we get them, we are posting them. But remember, you know, holidays are still documented the same way. The 5 holidays that we hit under SEIU, we have to follow the rules. It is on the cover sheet of your paperwork, and I do understand some people are frustrated that they can't work these days, but you have to have an essential client. The state has put in a bunch of rules on it. They're not going to give on it. We understand that kids are home from school, there's distance learning going on, parents are still having to work these days and stuff, but the reality is the state's not giving on them. And I do know that we have quite a bit of changes coming through, but this is something you guys have had for years. So please, please, please do pay attention. Don't make the staff chase you down and write you up and do all that. So obviously this Monday is a holiday. So again, make sure if your client is considered unessential that you are not working that day. If your client is essential, make sure you're following your schedule. If they're essential, they get to use their hours as they were assigned. So make sure you guys are following that. You're not just jumping in and out or whatever. You guys are following their assigned hours. Also, payroll is still due at noon on Monday. It's not optional. That has to happen so that we can process it and get you guys paid that same Friday. If it becomes an issue still over the next few months here, we might have to push payroll out so you guys aren't getting paid on Friday and you'd be getting paid possibly the following Wednesday, which would suck for everybody because I prefer to pay you guys right away. I don't want to hold your money. But if I have to start having payroll pushed out because the girls are having to spend an extra 10, 12 hours a week in that first 2 days to try and get this all fixed, it causes massive issues. So again, being responsible for yourself and for what jobs you're getting paid to do, and watch what you're doing. Make sure those time cards are signed. I do know that CareTap has had some issues. So for those of you that it's been a documented issue, obviously there's some give me on it. But when there's 300 plus of you guys, I expect that the 5 office staff we have are not having to call you guys, as that would take up their whole day. So again, take responsibility. Make sure you guys are following those rules. Make sure you guys are getting your stuff in on time so we can be done with it. I will give you a great compliment that the office staff did say that there has been very few changes required. Most people are getting much better at punching in and punching out on time. Other than the hiccups that are happening with CareTap, it sounds like that is going great. So thank you for that. But again, making sure you guys don't make it the office staff's problem, that it becomes your issue. You're following the rules and regulations and getting your stuff done that you need to. All right, next on that list is CareTap. The CareTap app is working, from my understanding, okay or reasonable. We have been told to please make sure that everybody has refreshed that app, because it sounds like there is some people still not checking that they've checked themselves and their client for the COVID concerns. Those are a requirement. Again, that's something that we document because the state requires it. Every time you guys walk into any hospital or clinic, they ask you those fun questions. Those are still there for a purpose. As much as no one is happy about having to do it, we do have to do it. And those check boxes just give me a little bit of backing when the state comes to us knocking on our door to verify you guys are doing your job, that I can say, yep, see, they're checking those boxes. Now, if you're not checking them and the state comes and knocks on my door, they're not just going to be knocking on my door, they're going to knock on yours next. If there's an outbreak and one of you gets it, it can become your problem, and it becomes my problem. So don't make this my problem. Don't make it your problem. Do the COVID questions, and please make sure you guys are checking those boxes. It's not just because it is a requirement. CareTap has gone down to one telephone number, which is huge. From there, they have broke everything out basically to service extensions. For the people that are using the dial-in option from their client house, make sure you look at the instructions and you're following those instructions really well. It sounds like so far everybody has changed over pretty clearly, but for any of you that may have never had to do this or may need to use it, if you have questions, do check in on your ADP app. It'll be in your employee stuff. We are going to add it to our website under employment, but also just make sure you guys are following through on it and calling if you have questions. That allows for you guys to not always have to be on the internet and always have to be on their app, but we prefer that you guys use the app so you can use it a little more seamlessly. But obviously the phone lines are there for a reason. So each client has a primary phone number that it would have to be called from. It can't be called from a PCA phone number. You got to call from that phone line that's attached to the client that proves that you're on site. So making sure you guys are paying attention to that. You're refreshing your app here and there. Obviously, it's frustrating to have to refresh, and I understand that. But at this point, it's the only way that we can get those updates to force through. For some reason, they are not able to force them through like all the fun other social media things. We are in talks with them trying to get that fixed, but at this point, we just ask that, you know, here and there, make sure you guys are refreshing it. Literally, you just go up to the little cog in the corner, touch it, it offers you a refresh. Hit refresh. If for some reason those questions still don't show up, then you have to take the extra steps of probably deleting the app, reloading it, and approving it to start over. Sometimes it comes down to the age of the phone, the type of phone, blah, 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 blah. So I can't fix everything. IT is so far out of my wheelhouse that that is just something that I'm sorry. All I can say is try, and try again. All right, next thing. Transportation concerns have come up again. I do know a lot of our clients are having issues getting to doctor's appointments and getting to and from the store, places like that. Transportation has become limited. Some of the bus companies have cut way back because there wasn't enough people being transported. And that being said, with COVID being what it is and taxi services and stuff, transportation is still limited on the PCA side for sure. But what we have been seeing slowly but surely is that if they're on a waiver, the waiver is opting to go ahead and add transportation for doctor's appointments and allowing staff to do that transportation and be reimbursed under the medical mileage. If your client is in need of that, please do let us know. Right now, it just kind of depends on each client and what their case manager is doing. And I know a lot of this is kind of more than what you guys need to know, but it's something that we're seeing consistently come up, especially now that doctors' offices are starting to open again. Virtual visits are great and they seem to be happening, but I do know like physical therapy and different therapies like that are needing to still be done face to face, and this is a big deal. So if your client is needing transportation to and from medical appointments, please do let us know so we can see what we can do to help. I do have one county that I'm working with that actually has been sending out a mileage reimbursement that you and your client fill out together when you go to and from an appointment, and then the county actually directly reimburses that staff for those medical miles, so it doesn't even go on your paycheck. It actually goes directly to you in a check. Again, reach out to us and we'll see what we can do. I am working different strategies with different counties, and so it might take me a little bit of time, but if I know about it and I know it's an issue, then I can work on it. All right, with that being said, documentation is huge. I'm noticing lately that documentation is starting to fail. One of the big things is right now, if you take them grocery shopping and it's further than 10 miles, you have a right to collect 50 cents a mile reasonably. After that, as long as it's documented. I actually have gotten a couple of calls lately that PCAs have been collecting that, and it is okay to collect it, but they need documentation of it, and I'm not finding it on time cards, so then it looks like that. So remember, if it's not documented and signed, it doesn't exist, which means it's theft. So it is your job, no questions asked, to be documenting it, because if it's on your time card and your medical notes, the client can review what you put in there, and they get to sign it, which says, yes, I approve this. That's a big deal. This is more than just, oops, I forgot. As soon as you touch any type of money of a client, it can be considered theft if we don't have proper documentation. So don't, oops, I forgot. Anytime you collect any funds from a client, it has to be documented why, how much, and what it was for, and when it was done. If you don't have, for some reason, enough in your medical notes, then you need to get a hold of the office so we can get you more documentation options. But again, if I get any more phone calls from case managers that say so-and-so collected money, and I look at a time card and I don't find any documentation of it, it will be considered theft. You will be required to pay it back and possibly wrote up or terminated. So pay attention. The oopses have to stop on that. Money is one place that the state of Minnesota does not give. The second place is medications. You never, ever, 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 and I can't say this enough, ask for medications or take medications. I do understand Tylenol, Aleve, those things are kind of the everyday things. But again, all it takes is one client to say, so-and-so took pills out of my house or took pills while they were here that were mine, and we have no way of proving that it was Tylenol, ibuprofen, any of those things. So again, your clients are not your pharmacy, they're not your bank account, they're not any of those things, and I've never had this be an issue, and I don't want it to start being an issue. So respect those boundaries, and remember, even if they're family members, when you're on my clock, they're not. If you are getting paid a dime from Bees Home Care, you are an employee and they are a client, no matter how it sets. I do understand, but if they're a family member, please then know what you're asking for and pay attention. I'm not mad at anybody. I just need to lay clear lines down because this has become an issue. Last but not least, the fun of the newest of new COVID requirements. We have to talk about strategies to minimize the risk of sexual violence. So on our website, I have added about 350 pages of documentation from the CDC, the state of Minnesota, from the Department of Health, and all the way down to Social Security, and some guardianship paperwork. In the long run, it really just comes down to people with disabilities and or everyday people have a right to their sexual preferences, but we do have to make sure that we're paying attention to any type of sexual violence, anything that we have to be concerned of. If a client comes to you and you have a conversation and they bring up that their sexual interactions have become more than what they want or have become violent or any of that stuff, please, it is a requirement to let us know. Obviously, one of the hardest things right now is remembering our clients. Just because they might have intellectual disabilities or physical disabilities doesn't opt them out from those wants and needs. They are still everyday adults, teenagers, whatever. We're just got to give them their anonymity so they can make some decisions, but we also have to pay attention that when they make those decisions, they're the safest they can be. The hardest part of all of this is just kind of figuring out what that means. We have clients that are transgender, we have clients that are bisexual, we have clients that are gay, and all of those things are never an issue. But in saying that, we want to make sure that if something comes up and maybe they're confused, or maybe somebody has not given them proper information and they ask for assistance, that we're able to give them that. The state's main goal, I mean, is just meaningful, shared, and supported sexual relationships, making sure that strategies are in place for our disabled folks, that they can still have a very standard life, just like the rest of us, and keep moving forward, but also feel safe in that relationship. Um, Workplace violence, obviously, we don't ever put up with that, but again, it's another situation. Sexual violence sounds like it's become more of a problem probably down in the cities. But if it's something that you feel like you're having issues with, please don't hesitate to reach out. Even if it's just a client that's not being completely appropriate, and maybe it's just as much as those reminders because in their world they don't see it being a problem. We've had a few of those conversations with people before, reminding them that um, you're over 18 now. It's not cute to touch somebody on their behind anymore. It wasn't cute in the first place, but now you're over 18, so that's even a bigger problem. Or maybe the conversation with a little guy who thinks, you know, he's trying to give a compliment, but the reality is he's really kind of being very inappropriate, telling you you have a nice set of breasts or whatever it might be. Um, so just making sure you guys put those boundaries in place, and remember that, you know, as much as um, we enjoy our relationships outside of work, so do they. So making sure that those boundaries are clear, but also that we're respecting that they have a right on their personal side to have relationships. And if they're confiding in you about those relationships, we need to respect that too. Um, Sexual violence happens at all ages, from infants up. It's really scary, actually, the amount of information that I've gotten over the last couple of years of how many little ones are being sex trafficked or sold by parents for sexual favors, for drugs, and things like that. We're seeing it in the foster system quite a bit. So keeping your eyes open, paying attention to what's around you, and remembering, you know, it never hurts to question a situation. I would rather have a questionable situation brought to my attention so I can help you walk through it and start figuring out if it's a problem, if it's a past problem, if it's not a problem, it's just a story, someone making up for attention, those things. Obviously, we've seen it all, but when it's brought to your attention, it's something we actually have to look at and go through the steps. I mean, if I have a young one, 3, 4 years old, telling me someone's touching them inappropriately, obviously that needs to be looked at. Is it because someone's still wiping their bottom side, or is it because someone's actually touching them not so appropriately? So none of that's taken lightly, but I understand that not everything needs to be 911 phone call instantly because, oh my God, they said it right this second. You know, obviously, I want you to use some common sense and some common dignity, respect, and understanding for people, so that when they tell you something, they feel safe in telling you. And asking those questions, find out. You know, it never hurts to get more information. And then again, if you have that pit in your stomach that just says, I'm not sure what I need to do, most likely that means you need to call the home care and ask for some assistance. And they will get me, I promise you. Even if I'm not in the office, if something pops up that there's a question, they do not hesitate to reach out. Those office staff are amazing, and those girls, you know, will bend over backwards to make sure every question is answered as soon as possible. And I promise, as much as I can, I try to be absolutely available at all times. Um, Making sure too that family members um, are feeling safe. You know, obviously everybody has their own way of handling things, but one of the big things is we always, in our household, have joked about sex. Not everybody can do that. So making sure in an environment you're in, especially if you're being paid to be in that environment, that you guys are watching that fine line. It's okay to laugh and joke and all that stuff, but it's not okay if it becomes uncomfortable or unsafe. So make sure in all those situations that we're not overstepping those boundaries. There's a huge respect for it. Also on our website, there will be resources for anybody who has had sexual violence or any type of possible rape, things that they may not give us all the information and they're not really ready to possibly confront the situation. We are going to put all those things on the website because that way people can get on there, including clients and or staff, and see what those resources are. The state really is stepping up for this one and wants everybody to know that this is a big deal. Has become even worse with COVID and everybody being home, frustrations arising. Things are just kind of happening that aren't appropriate. So all ages are having issues. Please, please do not hesitate to, make sure you step up and look at it. A couple other things that has been brought up to our attention is guardianship. There's many of us that have guardianship over somebody. The hardest part is implementation and figuring out where the disability stops them from making decisions versus taking all their rights away and not allowing them to be any type of their own person. So for any of you that are on my staff that are a guardian, I have added a guardian rights and responsibilities piece. It's like 111 pages and I'm super sorry, but each section has got different pieces of it put together. It is a 2018 document, but I can honestly say some of it is phenomenal to read. It does give you some insight on how to handle people's rights without really having to feel like you've stepped on them. I know me personally, I'm an advocate for power of attorney, not taking rights away, but obviously some of our kiddos and adults need that change and need to have a guardian because they would make bad decisions and be easily manipulated into signing things. But again, I want you to know kind of those concerns because also for you that are not guardians but know that maybe your client has a guardian, is there something that maybe isn't being done that should be being done, or are they doing something they shouldn't be doing that they are doing and you have some concerns yourself and may want to bring those forward? So it never hurts to look at those resources. I'm not saying study them. I'm not saying you have to know them all. And I'm not saying if you're not a guardian that you have to go in there and do it. I'm saying it's an option. I feel like it's a good option for you guys to know. I want you to know about the different levels of guardianships and stuff like that. Again, it's not a requirement. It's an option. One other thing that we really should be touching base on, and it's kind of out in the media everywhere, is the people of colored descent, American Indians, people with disabilities, LGBT communities, and children that have disabilities. With all of this being said, making sure that nobody is being treated differently, what services you give to one, as long as it's on their care plan and on their point of care, then you need to be giving it to all. I never want to hear that because you're with a little boy, he can go fishing and play in the mud, but because you're with a little girl, she has to be at home doing her hair and makeup. I mean, I know those are far-fetched and those are kind of the old mentalities, but it's stuff that we hear. Our company, we've been very fortunate. Our staff has not had that issue, but it's a huge thing in the media right now, how those things are coming to light. And I feel like being part of the Bees Home Care family, you know that this company was built because of my love for people. And I expect you guys to do your job no different than if I was doing your job. I spend a lot of time in the field taking care of the same people you guys take care of. And when I do it because I love my job. Is it for the money? Oh, hell no. Excuse my language, but the reality is none of us are going to get rich. So let's just go with it's a complete respect. So if these communities, populations of people are being disrespected, I expect to find out about it so I can stop that. Anybody that makes a choice in life to be, be who they are and let you know that, then let them be. Respect that. If there's a family issue, which can happen, where a child might come out to you and let you know, or might have the want to dress up as an opposite sex, and maybe there's a family concern about it, or maybe the family doesn't believe in it. I understand it's a very fine line and very hard to be that staff member in the middle. So if you have concerns or questions, please let us know so we can help you work with the family on clear lines of what is expected. I don't ever want anybody lying to a family about it. If that child or adult is not ready for their family to know, that's okay too. You can know and not let their family know. But if the family does know and there's a clear line drawn in the sand that this person is not allowed to do something, and you have concerns that it's more just because they don't understand it or because the family just doesn't approve of it, please don't hesitate to ask, and we can see what we can facilitate so that we can get proper education to them also. A lot of times, especially with all the changes nowadays, um, it's a lot about education. It's a lot about people knowing um, it's approved. It's okay. It's not behind closed doors. Um, we can all live together in a community and be okay with that. I do understand that the generations are having some issues with it. I do get it. Um, but to bridge that gap, it doesn't mean to make it worse. It means to train, teach, and give options. The more we can teach other people what these things are and how this all goes on, the better off we are. Social media is our friend, but it's also our worst nightmare. People read social media, and if it says it on Facebook, holy Hannah, it is law. Um, it's not. Research, understand what you're seeing, understand what you're reading. Um, I need my staff members to really take a stance of knowing before you act. Um, the information we get a lot of times has nothing to do with our rural communities, and I understand that, but it still affects us. So I'm not saying this is our staff issue. I'm saying this is what the state is requiring and wanting us to make sure that everybody is being trained to understand that no matter race, no matter church choices, no matter what, they have a right to live the same life as anybody else. So we need to respect that. Making sure you guys get that. And I, like I said, I don't think it's our staff so much. I'm not hearing it about our staff at all, actually. So I am thankful to all of you. But again, if there's something going on that you don't understand or that you might need information on, please do not hesitate to call out and ask. All right, last but not least, COVID update. As everybody knows, we're still on a mask mandate. That has not changed, so please always have a mask. The state of Minnesota has implemented that every 2 weeks to every month, possibly once a week, it's just going to depend, that each community be tested. So where they're starting right now is long-term care, so nursing homes. At this point, all nursing home staff have to be either tested every 2 weeks or has to be tested once a month. It's going to come down to those percentages, no different than the schools. So if they are in the very low risk category, they will be once a month. If they are in the medium risk, it'll be every 2 weeks. And if they're in high risk, it could be up to weekly. As this is all happening and unfolding, they are starting with long-term care, so nursing homes. It will be moving to assisted living as that changes over and assisted livings are fully on board and able to do it. Then it will be moving to home care. What that means for us is, well, we'll see. Supposedly, we're going to have everybody come into our office once a month and have this test run. I'm not fully sure that they'll ever get that far because with the amount of testing that they're doing right this minute, adding another couple 100,000 people makes no sense. I do know that there's going to be a little leeway in the means of if you've been tested for another job, you can just turn that in to prove that you've been tested. But again, it still has to be in those exact time frames. So once we get the order, we'll be able to update you guys more. But at this point, home care still is not fully required to do these testing things yet. But I do know that we just had a very large meeting on Tuesday morning about it. And the new rules went into place overnight between Monday and Tuesday. So literally it was a nice big slap in the face in the morning that these tests were coming through. But again, until I know more, I can't tell you more. I just know it's coming. So when you get that phone call or when you get that letter, it again will be a staff responsibility that you will have a day, a month, or possibly a day every 2 weeks that you have to get tested either in one of our offices or in a clinic. We'll have more information for you guys as soon as I have it. We'll do everything we can to make it the most convenient we can. But at this point, until we have some documentation from the state of how they're expecting home cares to follow through on it, we're just going to kind of sit back and watch and make sure. Again, making sure that you guys stay clear of COVID. You're not interacting with people that have COVID, trying to make sure your clients stay clear of COVID. Obviously, the less positives we have, the less concerns we have. With school kicking back into place, the communities are going to be taking kind of a big hit, depending on if one case shows up or 100 cases show up. And how they're doing these risk assessments isn't very fair, but it depends on how many people are in your community. So if there's an outbreak of a high school of, 900 people and your community really is only a community of 1,500, you're going to be at the high risk side no matter what. Plant-based areas, so places that have food plants, things like that, those areas are already high risk. They've already been documented high risk because those branches have already been being hit with positives. So a lot of towns that you would think, oh, they're so little, how the heck do they have it? And how are they high risk? Those are some of the communities that actually are considered higher risk than some of our big metropolises. Hennepin County, last I looked, was only at a medium level due to the significant amount of population versus actually how many cases they have. So just making sure that you guys are keeping as much as you can close to the vest, doing what you have to do to make sure everything's clean, safe, hand sanitizing, hand washing, all those things we learned about last month, those don't change. So I will be touching base again with you guys in 30 days. I'm hoping to do a Zoom call then again, so it'll be live, so we can ask your questions and answers. At this point, you can always send your questions into office@thehomecareinc.com, and I will get you answers, or Brina will get you answers as soon as possible. If not, I will be doing a client, also one of these recordings, so that they have the basic information. They won't have as in depth, but they will have a good majority of this. Again, don't forget to take the test on this. All of it will be available online. And as we update everything, you guys will keep getting updates. Thank you again for doing everything you guys have through this. And thank you for being the warriors you are and working through all of our chaos. And again, as distance learning and all this fun is kicking off, pay attention to what we post, what we email. Make sure you're reading it. Don't just skip over pieces, because rules and regulations are flying out the door on a daily basis and changing. And I can't tell you enough that as you guys are doing things, it is a requirement for you to know these rules. And I can't sit down with each and every one of you every day to update you. So listen to your messages you're getting from the office, check your emails, make sure you guys are watching all these things that are accessible, because then you will know the information. No excuses is my motto. There's not an excuse to not know, because I give it to you in mini format. Thank you again. I appreciate all you do, and if it wasn't for you guys, there'd be no Bees Home Care family. So we will talk again in 30 days. If you have questions, let us know. Have a great day and an awesome weekend. Enjoy the Labor Day weekend off.